A very good evening and a pleasant welcome to all our viewers in Guyana and around the world. Again, this is Globespan 24x7 coming to you here from around the world, from New York and from Georgetown. And tonight we have a very interesting program, as always, to present to you what is going on in Guyana. So tonight we want to again extend our gratitude to Mr. Noah Singh from Globespan 24x7 for making this platform available to us. And of course to Devin, our technical specialist, who is doing a marvelous job. As you all know, Devin will pose any question to our panelists tonight. And again, I want to remind you that Devin is a very hard grader. So if your question does not meet his standard, you will not see it. So post your question up and Devin will put it on the screen so our panelists can also look at it. Tonight, to carry us on, as we know, it's still election time. This has been, I think research has shown that in the Commonwealth, this election has been the longest from the day of election to the declaration of the result of that election. We are today, June the 1st, is really 3 months away. It was March the 2nd. So today ends 3 months of that election and no result is yet coming. We're hoping that with yesterday, the good news that 100 boxes was recounted. I'm not sure today. I guess our guests will tell us how much was counted today. But I think hopefully by Sunday or Monday, this process should come to an end. And then the commission will meet and have their formality, their discussion, and hopefully not long after that, we'll have a declaration of the results. So this evening, I want to welcome to our program, no strangers to us, my co-host, of course, Derrick Arjune. As we all know, he is the chairman for a PNC group here in New York and a very ardent defender of the PNC. And we want to welcome him to the program. Derrick, welcome.
Thank you, Charles. Welcome, everyone. Good to see Sis again. Ms. Kissoon, I've heard of you. Nice to see you. Hope you have an enjoyable and informative program.
Thank you, Derrick. And of course, our guests tonight are no stranger to us. Dr. Asha Kissoon, she's the leader of a political party that recently contested the election. And the last time we talked about her being here as being the first female to be the candidate for the election, we meant this election of 2020. We know in 1997, Mrs. Janet Jagan was a candidate on that election. So for this 2020 election, Dr. Kissoon was the first female candidate to make herself available for that position. So Asha, welcome again to the program.
Thank you very much.
And of course, no stranger again to us is Sasenarine Singh. Says is an accountant, ACCA. He left his great job here in Maryland. Well, maybe you missed the action there, Says in Maryland and DC, what's going on. You went down to Guyana, and I think your plan is to stay there for the rest of your life, if that is correct.
Well, I good night, everybody, and thank you for inviting me, and thank you, everyone, for kind words. But on a personal note, I think I skipped the COVID from the United States, so I made a calculated and fortunate decision. But I'm grateful that I see that the curve is coming flattening in the United States. And I'm praying to God every day that it flattens faster so that the people of the United States can get back to their normal life.
Thank you, Sis. And the other good part of that is many of us did not get the virus, and we hope that continues. For those Guyanese who got it and who succumbed to it, we want to, of course, offer condolences to the family. And for those who recovered from it, God's willing. Tonight, before we get into our program per se, where our panelists will ask questions to Sis and to Asha, I want to bring to us what is happening now in the United States with this murder of a civilian by the police officer. It is murder. What that police officer did was unpardonable, and I hope that the charge is upgraded to the first-degree murder because he murdered that gentleman. He's in handcuff on the ground, and then he would not like that to happen to his own son or to himself. It is so sad. Hands in his pocket. It is just disgusting to see this. And we pray God that God will bring healing to the family. And our sympathy also goes to the family of the gentleman. So please accept our condolences, the family. Having said that, we know race relation is a serious problem, not only in the United States. We see it happening in Hong Kong. We're looking at different parts of the world where things are really getting out of hand. And I believe that humanity, we have recently, we have seen in the news that we launched into space, into another part of the journey to space, a great opportunity, a glorious development here in the United States, and yet we cannot live in peace with our neighbors. And I want to encourage all our political leaders in Guyana, our religious leaders. I hope that after the election results are announced, that the loser, whoever the loser is, and all indication, again, this is only an assumption, but based on what we're seeing in the result, it appears as though APNO AFC have lost the election. And if that work out to be true, I'm asking the religious leaders, the Christian pastors, the Hindu pundits, the Muslim imams, please go out in the street tomorrow, to the villages, to the communities, talk to our young people. Let them not be strayed by the politicians to go and create mayhem in our street. Because when they do that, they're the ones who will be punished, not the political leaders who invite you to go on the street. So I'm praying that our religious leaders will go out there and encourage our young people that, listen, I did not choose to be born into an Indian body. You did not choose to be born in an African body or a Chinese body or an Amerindian body. We had no say in that. It is the great plan of something higher than us. I could have been born into a Caucasian body. I could have been born into a black body. I don't know who made that decision, but we are what we are. And if you cut under the skin, it gushes out only 4 types of blood type: A, B, AB, and O. And Asha is a doctor. She will tell us more of that. But the thing is, look, tomorrow morning, I'm going to a blood donor here in New York to donate a pint of blood. I don't know who will use that blood. I'm O positive, so it means my blood might be used by anyone. Why do we have to look at the color of our skin or the texture of our hair to determine who we support and who we do not support? So again, I'm appealing to all our young people in Guyana. Please do not take the bait of what is going on here in the United States. Now, to go and protest, I will support your right to protest. That is a fundamental human right. Let's do it the way Martin Luther King did it. No violence. Let us do it the way that Mahatma Gandhi did it. No violence. We can make our voice known. We can shut the country down by peaceful protests. But to go and destroy property, and when you're destroying property, you're destroying your own welfare, because these are the business that employs you. And if they have no business, then there's no job for us. So I want to pray, God, tonight, what is happening in the streets of the United States will not happen in Guyana. And I'm appealing again to our politicians, to our religious leaders. Please go out and talk to our youths. Ask them not to be a part of that game. Having said that, Derrick, you want to contribute anything to our discussion? Well, because these are the business that employs you.
Just very quickly, the killing of Mr. George Floyd is rather unfortunate. But it's even more unfortunate that this will happen. It has happened. There will be demonstrations. These seem to be quite widespread in the United States and have spread to other parts of the world. But after all of that, what happens? Do we then just hold a commission of inquiry and point fingers at the police officers and perhaps a lack of training in the way they were brought into the force, or do we take a systematic approach to ensuring there are no more incidents like this? It is, to me, it's more frustrating to hear all the condemnations and frustrations mounted at this gentleman's death, and we go back to the same type of behavior the next week or the following week. So I believe that if we're going to do anything substantial, we need to have a national effort to make sure that the police departments in this country do not kill Black men and women wantonly. And while, Charles, you warned the young people of Guyana of not protesting violently, there's a lesson here. And that lesson is that we have to treat our populations in Guyana properly. If the police force is used in an improper and illegal way against various segments of the population, then we might see this kind of uprising. So there's a lesson to be learned there, and we all know about the famous quote from Dr. King: "Injustice anywhere threatens justice everywhere." So we in Guyana must pay attention to the explosion here and be careful that as we govern Guyana, especially after what is a very difficult period, that we continue to treat our people properly, respectfully, and legally.
Thank you, Derrick. Asha, welcoming you to the program. I want to ask you a question, and if you want to talk about what's going on here in the United States and to Guyana, that's fine as well. And says the same goes to you. How is the recount going on there in Guyana as we speak?
Well, as you all know, the latest update is that the chairperson asked for an inquiry based on the immigrant voters. We were all taken by surprise because, as we were made to understand, some of the commissioners themselves were not aware of the issue. So that was another curveball thrown in our direction. The new movement, however, took a very particular position on it. We know that it is within GCOM's rights to investigate anything that would go against credible results. I could quote the article for you that we got that from, Article 162(1)(b), which specifically says that they shall issue such instructions and take such action as appear it necessary or expedient to ensure impartiality, etc. It goes on. So we had no problem with her asking for an inquiry. Where did our problem come in relation to the recount? If an inquiry is to be done, let everything that could question the credibility of the results be inquired. We all know that we're here right now because Mr. Mingo made some declarations that did not go hand in hand with the counts that we were taking part in. Dr. Bandu from the United Republican Party had written a letter to GCOM in relation to that and got no response whatsoever. We feel that it's very biased that the moment APNU complained about immigrant leaders, voters, something was done about it. What we're saying is if it's within their right to ask for an inquiry, let everything be inquired. The computer technician that was alleged to be involved in fraud should be inquired. Mr. Mingo should be inquired also. The immigrant voters, if you'd like to look into it, should be inquired also. Let it be done transparently and let everything be on the table. So when the declaration is made, there's no doubt in anybody's mind as to what is happening. As for Region 4 and the recount, we're requesting more stations to be there. The truth is, my team has been carrying the weight of the recount on their shoulders. I haven't been there very much. We had the discussion, and we're so accustomed to having square pegs in round holes. It takes a day to train a recounting agent and 7 years to train a doctor. We were in the middle of a pandemic, so we had to weigh our benefits and risk and benefits, and I had to put my services more where it was more needed. However, I will be there again from next week, and I will be able to have more first-hand information for you.
And that's a great point there, Asha, is that it takes 7 years to train a doctor. I know how long training was given to the presiding officers or the poll clerk or whoever, but for APNU AFC to throw those election agent, this working staff under the bus with all this accusation, it's kind of really terrible. And I think it's, my concern is, why didn't the chairperson come out and defend her staff?
So allow me to continue, please, before you move on. I'm in total agreement, because if you represent somebody and you're in charge of them, you should have their back in a matter of speaking. Nobody defended those people. They literally accused them of fraud, even though I know some of them are not. I personally know people that work there, and they felt terrible. So they were poorly trained, they were thrown on the bus, and they're being accused of taking part in one of the big fraud stories in the history of that. It's not right. Concerning the issue of racism, I've been looking at the comments that I've been seeing on social media pages, Globespan, various Facebook posts, and I'm so disgusted by it. The truth is, I've been active against racism for more than 18 years. I spent 8 years of my life in Africa. I was there in South Africa also, where they had apartheid. They only abolished it around late 1990, 1994, around there. So it was a few years apart when I was there. And I could tell you the effects of it and what I saw the people going through is very similar to what I see our Guyanese people facing right now. Everybody is trying to say that one race is better than the other. And if we're to lie to ourselves and say it doesn't exist, that the Indo-Guyanese and the Afro-Guyanese don't fight against each other, we might as well bury our heads in the sand and say that it's not going to get better. So we take a heads-on approach. We acknowledge that it's there. The problem with it is that people are fighting racism with racism, and that cannot work. Regardless of if a political leader is Indo-Guyanese or Afro-Guyanese, what matters is their humanity. They should be able to treat every citizen of this country with equality, appreciate them for whatever race they are. Nobody should stand up and say, I don't see race. See race, appreciate that somebody is Indo-Guyanese, appreciate that somebody is Amerindian, appreciate the Africans in Guyana, and let them know that everybody is valued and everybody can be represented. We stand firmly against racism as the young people. We are the youth party. You mentioned earlier about first female candidate in this election, and it is the first Guyanese female candidate, I must say, okay? We do not want to see our future tainted by racism. We're on the brink of a civil war right now, and if anybody pretends otherwise, they really are hiding their heads in the sand. We're at the brink. Tensions are very high. Every day you speak to people, you reach out to them, and there's some people that desperately need help because they don't have jobs, and simply because of racism, they're suffering. And that's the reality of what we're going through right now. In order for this to be stamped out, political leaders, there needs to be a balance in Guyana, because for the last 50 plus years, the party is either predominantly Afro-Guyanese or in.
I think we lost Asha there. Devin, did we lose Asha?
One
Her,
second as we reconnect
her
her.
audio seems to have frozen.
All right, Sis, by the time Asha comes back on, how is the count going on there, and is there expectation that it's likely to finish by this weekend?
Well, good evening again. The count. The count is going very good, I would say, this week. Yesterday, we broke the record of delivering 100 boxes through the 12 counting stations. As at the end of today, some 1,837 boxes were completed, leaving a number of 502 boxes to be counted, which basically means about 80% of the boxes are gone, counted, signed, sealed, and delivered. They all have a statement of recount assigned to them. We're commencing tomorrow. We'll be starting that journey of pressing on with the other 20%. But one of the things has happened is everybody's gotten, because they've been doing it for over 27 days now, everybody's gotten more efficient in many ways than not. So I would say that at the end of day 27, we're moving. The expectation is that the counting side of the infrastructure will conclude on Saturday, June 6th. There is always a one-day delay for the tabulation process. So Sunday should be when we will wrap up tabulation. So the arithmetic, the numeric side of things, where the votes are counted, the SORs are prepared, then they're ascertained, they're tabulated, and tabulation certificates are issued to the public, because all of this is done on national TV, certifying the vote count as done in all the 12 stations on a daily basis. Now, I want to just bring a big distinction in. In those counting station has all, if not most, of the political parties. The APNU is there. They're signing off on these things. The PPPC is there. Well, APNU, AFC, I apologize. The PPPC is there. And a lot of the new parties are there. URP, which is not a new party, is there. They're all in the room signing off on this. The other thing that I've noticed, the majority of the persons involved in the recounting and the tabulation process are younger rather than older. It's a very, very big distinction that I discovered, because usually young people shy away from political activities. This time, there is a preponderance of young people all over the Ottochang Convention Center. So if you want to talk about numbers, at the end of today, we were able to, and as I said, it's a two-stage process. There's the count and there's the tabulation. It only gets finally certified when it's tabulated. So at the end of today, some 335,000 votes were counted. And valid votes we're talking about. So there's valid votes and there's rejected votes, which don't count. What really counts is the valid votes. And it's a great going, because Region 1 is concluded, Region 2 is concluded, Region 3 is concluded, Region 5 is concluded, Region 7 is concluded, and Region 8 is concluded. And today, we also concluded Region 9. So really, it's just 3 regions left in play. Of course, the elephant in the room, the Demerara Mahaica Region 4. There is the Quarantine, East Berbice Quarantine, which is Region 6, and Upper Demerara Berbice, which is Region 10. Those are the 3 regions in play right now.
Thank you, Sis. And Derrick, before you ask a question, I know Asha, you got cut off when you were on, you were saying something. You want to continue?
Yes, I was speaking about the solutions to the problem of racism, especially in Guyana, because our people are underrepresented. When A political party that is usually race-based goes into power. The other side of the spectrum always feel left out. I was saying that we believe in a position where everybody could be equally represented. Because as you can see what's happening in America right now, we don't want that to come to pass in Guyana, as you said earlier. It would be a loss of life. Our population is so small. Most are youth, and they're going to suffer. One of the main points I wanted to touch on before moving on was children. Racism is taught in homes from when they're young. And it's not to say that a parent would sit down and teach their child you need to be racist. It's the things you say when they're present. They may be playing, but they listen to everything. The things you let them look at on television. Subconsciously, they register everything that's going on. You need to be very cognizant of what you say around your child, what you teach them, and the comments that you made. Because looking at examples, if you take children and they're playing together, they'll spew out these little racist comments. And where do they get it from? It's the parents. So if you want it to stop, you need to stop it from the children, because we like to say they are the future.
Well said, Asha, except to say that the parents themselves unconsciously do not know they're spewing racial sometime, and that's the problem. So we got our high school students, I think, are the ones we got to work on, so that hopefully that when they become the adults, it's a process. But that's a very good observation. Derrick?
Well, before I put a question to Sis, you said the parents unconsciously say these things. I don't believe parents unconsciously say these things. I believe once you gain consciousness, whether it's at 10, 11, and then you grow into adulthood, you're fully aware of what you're saying and doing it in regard to racial matters. So nobody should get an out, black, white, or purple. You should be always aware of what you say to children about others. I mean, I'm in a situation. I mean, my daughter and her husband, they have mixed children, and there is a concerted and intentional effort every minute not to say anything that would prejudice their minds against other races. And they go to school in a predominantly white school district. So you say something, they're aware of the consequences. So, and they're not very old people. They've been doing this very early on. So people are aware. People in Guyana are aware, and they need to stop. If they're here, they need to stop too. Mr. Sasenarine Singh, you said that the count is going great. So I want to just put this open-ended question to you. Are you then satisfied that the various counts that have emerged from the 7 regions that have so far been counted are indeed reflective of the votes that were cast?
Derrick, one of the great discovery of the ACC is this. One of the great discoveries that we found is that in all 7 of those regions, the difference between what was declared by the respective ROs in region 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, and 9, the difference between what these 7 ROs have declared on March 4th and what is being declared, well, not declared, you can't use the word, what is being tabulated and certified today, the difference are mostly single digit. I only found one case where the variance was 20 votes. And every one of the region, it is single digit. And it begs me, I mean, I know that the big senior decision makers made this decision, but it begs me, this clearly tells me that this was an exercise in not following value for money concept. Because if we're going to spend all that money and utilize the resources of all those young people to count these ballots, to come up with region 1, and I can give you some tallies of some differences. Bear with me 1 second let me open this file, because it bothers me that we have spent so much time and so much effort to know these couple of facts. Region 2, for example, I'll come quickly to that one because that's the one that popped up on me. The all SOPs that were declared on March 4th said that the APNU AFC got 7,343 votes. The new SORs that were declared on March 19 revealed that the APNU AFC got 7,340, a difference of 3 votes, which the APNU lost. They lost 3 votes. PVP also lost 3 votes in that region. So the question is, we counted 26,000 valid votes to find out that the net effect is the APNU AFC and the PVPC lost 3 votes each. It is quite a waste of resources, but as I said, the decision was already made. I mean, when you come to West Demerara, an even bigger region, where we counted 72,000 votes, well, it's 72,592 votes, valid votes. The difference is as follows. The APNU lost 3 votes, the PVPC lost 4 votes. Insignificant. If you're an accountant, you would know it's called immaterial. It's not materially significant enough to alter the outcome. Region 5, which is West Berbice, again, we counted 33,119 valid votes. The APNU AFC gained 5 votes, the PVP gained 9 votes. What are we doing with our young people? Region 7, these are very important statistics, because history will have to write on these things. Because, again, on May 29th, we declared district number 7, 9,592 votes. The APNU lost 4 votes. The PVP gained 8 votes. Again, everything is single digit, and that's the challenge. So to answer your question, in the 7 regions that were concluded and that were ascertained and that was tabulated and that was certified, all 7 of them were in single digits away from what was declared on March 4th.
Sis, I appreciate your calling out numbers, but I don't appreciate you putting a price on people's thirst for freedom, people's belief in their democracy, in their system. After the declarations, the opposition was calling for a recount of 4. The APNUFC was calling for a recount of all regions. Guyanese were frustrated, they were upset. They did not want to accept what was going on. And this exercise was done primarily to satisfy them that their will would be respected by GCOM, and whoever emerges from that process will be their government. That is invaluable. You can't put a price on that. So while the result might be 4 or 5 or 10 votes, what is more important is that the outcome should produce a winner that is acceptable to all Guyanese, because that winner would be representative of the will of all Guyanese. But my next question is just a simple one.
Well, I have an opportunity to rebut and clarify, because you said it's an opportunity for a thirst for freedom. The question is, on the night of March 4th, 9 of the returning officers declared their numbers. We now have empirical evidence to illustrate that 7 of them were spot on. 7 of them did their job correctly. We also have empirical evidence, because what GCOM has done in this recount, they have chopped district number 4 into 4 sub-districts: East Bank, South Georgetown, North Georgetown, and East Coast Demerara. When you look at the tabulated numbers from the East Coast of Demerara, you would find there's enough evidence video evidence, documentary evidence, and the Kaichur News have been doing a great job, and Starbuck News, in exposing this, where over 7,000 votes were injected into the East Bank of Demerara in favor of one and only one political party, the APNU-AFC. Mr. Mingo committed a clear and present fraud on this nation on when he was doing his recount between the 4th to the 13th of March. And I'm saying fraud because I want him to sue me if he can, because I have enough evidence within my...
Can I get in here for a minute, please?
Yeah, says Derrick, before you answer his question, can Asha get in there, please? Thanks.
Go ahead.
Well, our position from the very beginning was very different from what SAY stood for. We had this discussion before. The new movement wanted all the regions to be counted, and simply for the sake of transparency. As we know, all tensions are high. Political party loyalists from both sides would want to see how it was done, exactly what the numbers were, and there shouldn't be a doubt or a question in anybody's minds. So we had no problem with all the regions being recounted and those figures being presented. We do see that there's a difference of single-digit numbers. I could personally say I made a pledge to the people as a new person into politics, as a young person in politics, as a new party. These single-digit numbers mean a lot to us. That's the reality of it. We've been here for a couple of months, and I made a pledge to people. I told them, even if one person votes for me, I'm going to continue my political work throughout for that one person. So these single-digit numbers that are showing up and the little differences, they mean a lot to us. They mean a lot to democracy, and they mean a lot for transparency for Guyana.
Thank you, Asha. Derrick, you got the next question, you said?
Well, Asha said it correctly, that there's not a price in democracy, in respecting people's rights, especially in a place as volatile as Guyana. With respect to the counting in Region 4 that is taking place, are you satisfied with all the procedures put in place to ensure that the result, when tabulated, would indeed reflect the voters' choices on March 2nd?
Is it Asha or
no, to you, sis.
Oh, sorry. As we all know, this recount process has two processes.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was parachuted into the process on the insistence of the APNU. For me, what matters is the substantive matter. And the substantive issue in this recount is the statement of recounts, that document that is signed by all the political parties who witness the recount of actual ballots. That document is then aggregated in the tabulation room, and we get it all done on national TV. That process, the arithmetic part, I am pretty satisfied. It's pretty transparent. Everybody is there witnessing. I have actually been in the count room for one session, and I've seen it is very transparent. People are being able to identify their numbers. And so the numbers is what will tell the story here. Now, there is another sideshow called the observation report that is a lot of allegations, a lot of innuendos, a lot of insinuation, a lot of guess game. None of this has been proven as yet. None of it. None of it that is in there in that observation report. And all we're getting from this observation report is a lot of wild allegations that are unsubstantiated, lacks credibility, and remains unto today unproven.
Asha, you want to come in there?
I do. And there's actually a question that I would like to ask in relation to that. So far, the process has been transparent. I would be more pleased with more working stations so that it could be a bit faster, because the pace at the moment is too slow for me. That's the reality of it. There are enough buildings available. There's space. We could have more working stations. I hope that they consider it. The fact that the COVID-19 task force is solely led by one political party You question the motive as to why more stations are not approved. Of course, that's a question coming from every citizen of Guyana. I, as a doctor, understand how serious coronavirus is. But at the same time, if all the same protocols are followed, we could have more working station. That's my personal opinion. As for the recount process, we have seen the numbers inflated by Mr. Mingo. It has been transparent, it has been proven. The legal minds have turned a blind eye towards it for some reason. I am concerned that the IT technician that was involved or alleged in fraud is still there. When it comes to the tabulation, those are more things to put questions and doubts in place. But my question now is, I have noticed that the APNU has not been signing off on these statements of recounts for certain regions, the final declarations or the final documents. How would that affect the final declaration of the overall results?
Yeah.
It will not. And the reason why it will not is the only certifying agency of the recount in the tabulation room is GCOM. This is GCOM's process. We are observing the process to make sure that they don't deviate from the order that was issued by the Madam Chair. But whether we sign or not, it doesn't change the price of cheese, meaning the substance.
Okay, I'd like the representative of the PNC to answer that question, please.
Well, look. If you read the gazetted order, and you look at particularly 12 through 14, especially the last in 14, GCOM makes the final determination of what the final declaration is. And therefore, even if the AP and UFC refuses to sign, it carries no import except it sends a message that that particular district was ridden with irregularities, anomalies, and unusual occurrences that the APN UFC representative doesn't feel comfortable. But in answer to your question, no, it is GCOM that makes that determination, and Mr. Alexander has said as much, and that is supported by the gazetted order, that GCOM finally will be the final arbiter of what this tabulation is all about. And I think SACE referred to these observation reports, which he said contained unproven and unsubstantial allegations. We'll see what happens. GCOM also has to rule on those observation reports. That too is provided for in the gazetted order, and we shall see what decision GCOM comes to when it takes into account those observation reports.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, we want to ask Asha and Sis some of the comments made by the Lieutenant Colonel Gomes, Aubrey Norton, Joe Harmon, and we also want to touch on the letter that was sent by the chairman to the police commissioner and so on. So when we come back, we'll address some of those issues. So we'll be back shortly.
Hey, it's Richard David. I'm coming to you during these extraordinary times where we're all being asked to do more. We're all being asked to do something differently. To tell you that the safest way to vote is actually right at home. Go to nycabsentee.com and request a ballot. You complete the ballot, it comes with a stamp, and you send it back. You can still go out and vote on June 23rd, but the safest way to do it is right at home and to do it right now. Thank you.
January marks 1 year since Globespan 24x7 embarked on this initiative to offer a platform that brings in all sides, all points of view, and all concerns. Viewers in Guyana and across the world are participating in discussions that are bringing to light issues relating to social, economic, and political matters that have been plaguing our nation. Globespan's platform offers Guyanese to express their concerns and discuss solutions in the political realm, thereby addressing the polarized situation. Discussions also include social ills such as alcoholism, domestic violence, and suicides that have been plaguing the people. The platform also mitigates the brain drain by having speakers that live in Guyana and across the world participate in these discussions. This concept will avail a broader view for the benefit of all Guyanese, so Globespan needs your support to offset the expenses. Kindly contribute by clicking the link in the description to help support these programs.
Welcome back to our program. We had an exciting part of discussion. Thank you, Sis and Asha, for those wonderful answers. Sis, you mentioned in your earlier section that that of the 7 stations that were completed, the variance was very, very negligible, as you said, single digit, and of course it's immaterial. What that tells me is that the GCOM staff did an excellent job on election day. So the flow was good. The president, the observers, the opposition leader, everyone who looked at the election on March 2nd said that the election was the best you've ever seen. You mentioned that also in this program just after the election. And what this recount is also now proving is that the presiding officers, the returning officers from those 7 regions that so far has been tabulated and completed, they did an excellent job. So my question to you now, Sis, and to Asha, is that we had a letter from a Lieutenant Gomes, who retired from the Army, who is saying that the 8,000 or so military votes was not counted because they were not stamped. Mr. Jonas refuted that, and he said that is a falsehood. I know Aubrey Norton is also prepping that kind of narrative, and so is Joe Harmon. Are they setting the stage after the declaration is made that the military did not vote, so the military will go on their side, so to speak, and will not support the new government, should that new government be installed? Why do you think they're using that narrative when you rightly said that of all 7 of the regions that have been tabulated matches the vote on election day from the statement of polls? Why is the APNU leadership doing that, in your view?
I would say this, Charles. Whoever asserts should really provide their evidence. And one of the things I've not been seeing from, in particular, Mr. Gomes, because I will hold, and his name is Lieutenant Colonel retired George Gomes. Everybody knows him as Gomesy. He's a very close associate of Mr. Harmon. And the question is, he made an allegation when he said some 8,000 people from the discipline services have been disenfranchised. Now, I will tell him it's a blatant lie, and I'll tell you why I'm saying it's a blatant lie. We have done the research. I've done personally the research around region 1, 2, 3, and 5. In those 4 regions, there is something called intermixing, where the discipline services ballots are intermixed with the civilian ballots. In those 4 regions, that process happened in 78 boxes, right? In those 78 boxes, when I checked, there was 2,177 discipline service ballots that were intermixed with civilian ballots. Now, let me just make a cursory note. The largest chunk of discipline service ballots were intermixed in Region 4, and that is still in count, so I will not be including that in the discussion. But in the 4 regions that I'm talking about, 1, 2, 3, and 5, which are all completed, 2,177 discipline service ballots were intermixed with civilian votes. Of those, in those 78 boxes where that intermixing happened, there were only 117 rejected ballots for various reasons. So a rejected ballots is not only what Georgie is talking about. A rejected ballots could be on marks, a want of official mark, which is what Georgie is talking about, the 6-digit stamp. It could be because somebody just go in there and feel happy and they put XXX in every box. They voted for more than one person. It could be where I saw one ballot where a girl says, "Oh, APNU, I love you, Joyce something." She just disfigured the entire ballot, right? Without voting. So that's a ballot where the elector can be identified because she wrote her name. So those are all situations why ballots are rejected. So when I drilled down into those 117 rejected ballots, I found there was only 6 ballots in those 78 boxes that were rejected for want of an official mark. Now, how do I know if these 6 ballots are civilian or disciplined services? It's the same color, it's the same, everything looks the same. How do I know which one is which? It is a ludicrous comment made, and I see it as throwing mud on the wall and hoping some of it will stick on the part of the APNU. That is what they're doing. They're playing dead and wanting to see who will come to their funeral. But it is a blatant lie, and it must be rejected because it lacks any credibility, it lacks any truth, it has no basis in reality. It is a figment of a demented mind.
But my question, sorry, Derrick, my question you say is, why are they doing that? What do you think is the motive for doing that?
I think I'm a sane person. I don't want to sit in an insane mind. I don't have an answer for that. It's only an insane person will come and make a statement like that 8,000 disciplined service people were disenfranchised, and a liar, because the bottom line is, it is not truth. It has no foundation in truth. There is empirical evidence in those statement of returns that shows that it's totally untrue. Absolutely untrue. And this is the very, very important point. These statement of recounts are prepared based on a process witnessed by the APNU AFC representatives in those 12 counting stations.
Well, if I may, Charles, I have to know George Gomes just as you do, and I actually know him from teenage years, and I know him to be a fellow of integrity, honesty, and dependability. And I've never known George to fiddle with the truth, and I am inclined to believe that there's some validity to what he's saying.
Where's the evidence?
Well, we have the observation reports to look at. We have the evidence to weigh against what is claimed in those observation reports, and then we'll have a final declaration. But Charles, you kept asking, sis, why they're doing that. I don't believe that they're doing that with a view towards swaying the military against a possible PPPC government. The PPPC has ruled Guyana at different periods of time, and during that time, the military forces have been in support of the PNC. And there is no attempt by the PNC to sway the military to destabilize any PPC government. So if the insinuation is that the APNU AFC is attempting here to put a PPC government in jeopardy by accusing it of depriving its members of votes, I would say that's totally without base historically, and it's totally without a basis today. If I may say, the APNU AFC is a major party. It represents nearly 50% of Guyana, and it has always embraced stability, growth, and unity in Guyana. It does no good to the objectives of the party to have Guyana divided and going asunder based on false allegations. So just to address that insinuation, Charles, no, it is certainly not in any way to undermine a PPC government. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know that's an emergency call from New York here. I know Asha is back. I think she got blackout in her computer, but Asha, you on the phone?
Yes, I'm right here.
Okay. We were talking about my question to Sis was that if you heard his question, and Derrick was responding to it, is that the retired colonel from the army, Gomes, and Aubrey Norton and Joe Harmon, the front line of the APNU AFC, they've been making these, in my view, erroneous statement and very, very serious statement that the military votes was not counted because it appears as though, in their view, that they were not stamped. SIS just went through from region 1, 2, 3, and 5 and saying of those rejected ballots, only how much SIS was not stamped?
6.
Only 6 was not stamped. And of that 6, the military was over 2,000 for those 4 regions. And we don't know if those 6 stamped was military vote or not, because you don't know who's the presiding officer will tell us why they didn't stamp those. What is your view? I know Derrick is saying they have no motive, but I find it strange that the retired colonel is very senior guy in the military. To make that kind of statement is
He's
cause
also
for
the head of
concern.
the Guyana Legion, which is representative of the retirees.
That's right, exactly. That's the cause of concern, Asha. So we are talking about that. Do you have any comment on that? Why would they make those statements?
Forgive the pun, but it seems as though Mr. Gomes, Mr. Harmon, and Vaughn have sitting down and written a song, and they're singing to it. One beating the drum, one with the flute, and the other one with the piano. And they're just going to the tune. They're not looking to see who likes the music or if it makes any sense. All right? Coming from a new party point of view, speaking to my colleagues, the Citizen Initiative with Rhonda Lam, and United Guyana with Mr. Ralph from Quran and Timothy Jonas, we have not seen any evidence of this tune they're singing to. I'm waiting for it. If you show me some evidence, I will support you. But at this point in time, where it's around 6 indeed, they haven't reached 10 that were not stamped so far from our observations. So we will not be singing to this tune. I am very bad at playing musical instruments. So that's my comment.
That's a nice orchestra there. I know, Derrick, I really don't quite understand that these are gentlemen who are very senior. They're not junior guys. I mean, the retired guy from the army, he has been around, and as Sadi said, he's now heading the retired arm of the military. To make that kind of statement, it's dangerous. And I'm really concerned of their motive. Why are you making those statements when you know it is not true? And there's nowhere anyone, Derrick, can pinpoint from any ballot box which vote is military and which is a civilian vote. We don't know that. Your mute is on.
Mr. Arjune, can you click the mic button on the bottom left of your screen?
It's still on, Derrick. Your mute is still on. All right, I think by the time Derrick is getting his gadget fixed, I want to ask another question to you, lady and gentlemen. Is yesterday we heard in the news for the first time that the chairperson wrote to the police commissioner on May 22nd, which is a week ago, asking the commissioner to direct his immigration guy to give some guidance on a number of persons whose name was submitted by APNO FC, whether those persons were in the country on election day. Two things I'm worried about here, Sasenarine and Asha, is, and Derrick can coming as well, but Derrick, your mute is still on. One is that, is the chairperson's decision to write the police commissioner a GCOM position, or is it only the chairman's position? I'm asking that question because it appears as though from Commissioner Gunraj is that he was not aware of any meeting to do such a letter. So Commissioner Alexander, on the other hand, says that he's aware of the letter that was sent. So I'm kind of confused with that. And secondly,
thank you.
Why did she have to write such a letter when I know Asha did quote Article 162 that gave guidance to the Elections Commission. But Article 163 of the Constitution says, and today I think Christopher Ram quoted it in a letter, that if any election that is lawfully held has any unlawful act or omission, those unlawful act or omission can only be determined by the High Court, not by the Elections Commission. So I'm concerned that the chairperson wrote a letter to verify those, and they're all allegations. They're not facts, they're allegations, without the commission knowing about it. So maybe says Asha, who want to go on that?
Allow me to start, please. I'm really happy that you brought this up. I did quote the article earlier with the intention of bringing to everybody's attention that if it's all GCOM was within their right to ask for an inquiry, that all allegations of fraud should be inquired. Yes. But in the same light, we are aware that the chairperson did it in her own capacity. Okay? When in a situation like this, with all tensions rising, it reeks of a lack of transparency. You have commissioners in your body not aware of it. The letter being given out to stakeholders in the election a week after, we only being made aware of exactly what's happening when a response is happening, the illegalities behind it. We have issued a public letter, which should be out by tonight, on our issue to the chairperson and our views on it, but mainly saying that she acted outside of her capacity. She put herself in a position to be questioned as if she's taken a side on what is her stake in this election now, if she's blatantly going to act in her own capacity and non-transparently.
Sis, you want to come in?
I actually, on this letter issue, I want to agree with Asha because I believe anything that is of sensitive of this nature should have been deliberated on in the commission, and the commission should have had a part of the process. Because at the end of the day, the chairman cannot act as an individual. She acts as part of a body, and that body is the commission. And this is the reality. You know, there's lots and lots of allegations which are now being confirmed into evidence against Mr. Mingo. But yet, the chairman never found it within her right to write to the Commissioner of Police on those matters. Now, there's a time and place for everything. The time and place right now is to count those ballots. We are 20% away, and I'm not going to distract myself with all of these games that is being played by political players to distract the substantive issue. The substantive issue to bring credibility to our national elections is to have those ballots counted in front of all the stakeholders, verified by all of them, ascertained by all of them, and then tabulated by all of them, so that GCOM can then say, well, we have a reasonably good set of data here that we can use to make a declaration. I believe that the APNU AFC has bullied GCOM into using taxpayer dollars to generate an observation process system in order for them to gather evidence for an election petition later. But the time for an elections petition is not now. It's after the declaration has been made. So, enough said. All I want to say, let's get on with the counts. Let's get on with the tabulation. Let's get on with the certification. Let's get on with the declaration. And then, and only then, I am going to even look at those observation reports. Because it's all he say, she say, they say, I say, but none of it has any substantive evidence.
That's well said, Sis. Derrick, maybe you can help me here again. If the chip, and I know this process now should be considered a count and the other things around it are side shows. But Derrick, if you can answer this question for me, please. If the chairman had held a meeting with the commission to discuss the letter that the APNU had sent to her with these observations they're making, the commission would have approved it because 3 would have voted for the letter to be sent, 3 would have voted just generally for no, and then the casting vote would have been for, and the commission would have known about it. Why didn't she do that?
Well, I can't speak for the commission as you are. You suggesting the commission would have done this, the commission would have done that. I don't know what the commission would have done. What I do know is that Ms. Claudia Singh has been accused of being toothless and fangless and powerless. But it is instructive that it is largely because of Claudia Singh that we are in this recount process. She's the one that made it clear that under the constitutional authority of GCOM, under 162, I think is 1B, that a recount was in order. And you had the Court of Appeal that ruled in that line. And then we had the recount process. So let's not throw darts at her for what she's done and having us at this point where Guyanese could have a process completed that will satisfy their interest in finding out who won the second election. Besides that, the chairperson is not she's not held in check completely by being a part of that commission. We are in an evolving democracy. And if you look at what GCOM is supposed to do, the rules, well, we've never been in a recount process. And what Claudia Singh does and other commissioners do in this instance would be a part of history. So let's hesitate. In fact, let us not criticize Claudia Singh because one, this is a new process, and two, there are no guidelines in the Constitution or elsewhere. And I support her stepping out and letting everyone know that this process is still under GCOM's control, and I, as chairperson, will do what I think is necessary and reasonable. Now, it's quite laughable that my good friend Sasenarine Singh is talking about elections petition. This is what we wanted. This is what was suggested from the time Mingo's alleged fraudulent declarations were made. The proper way to do this was to go by an elections petition and not to short circuit this whole process by bringing all those, by bringing two injunctions, two requests for injunctions and other appellate actions. Here we are talking about the utility of the judicial system at this point when that utility was discarded and and completely ignored when it should have been used initially. But such is politics, you know.
Derrick,
It's twists and turns.
yeah,
I think Derrick made
I know you want to come in,
made
but
a
Derrick.
pitch at me, and I think in all fairness,
Okay, go on.
offered an opportunity to respond. Will I be?
Yeah, go on, go on.
Yeah. Listen, and let me talk from the heart here. And it's extremely important Derrick listens to what I have to say. Derrick is a lawyer. I am not a lawyer. But I'm a man of the street. Yes, I have my qualification. I'm a man of the street. And what the difference between what Mr. Mingo did and what these allegations that are being concocted via these observation report, it's a stark difference. And I'll tell you why. We have evidence today to illustrate, and this is what I think is the weakness of the APNU AFC, or the PNC, if I may call it, because they have a weakness in arithmetic. That's their problem. They cannot add, and this is what they failed this nation at. What Mr. Mingo did was fail to add the numbers accurately and credibly following the law. What I'm talking about is you have a lot of loosey-goosey allegations about people migrating and people dead and people, telling the discipline services that their votes were not counted. Many of it which is lies. So I am telling you, the AP and UAFC, bring your lies to court and let us strip you naked.
All right, having said
what
that,
the PPP has exposed is that Mingo fraudulently stole 7,000 plus votes for the AP and UAFC on the East Bank of Demerara. And we're coming up to the East Coast where we will prove that he stole a further 14 plus thousand votes from the people of Guyana. Fraud. He is a fraud. He should be banned from Guyana as a traitor. That is what Mingo should be. He is a traitor to democracy. He's a traitor to the Guyanese people. That is what he is.
All right. Having said that, says Derrick, I want to begin Asha. But Derrick, you're right. I agree with you in that Claudette Singh made this recount possible. But I think you forgot. She made this possible only because she did not stood up to Mingo when he started going out of the law to create numbers that did not exist. What they're saying alleged now, and if I think I support says in this one, what you're saying alleged, what Mingo did, has now been proven that on the ballot boxes that he changed, we are seeing the statement of polls and the statement of recount being almost the same, and the statement by Mingo when he had votes to the APNO AFC and he took away vote from the PPP. That is fraud, as says him. Asha, you want to come in there?
Yes, I do. We stand against all fraud. Miss Claudette Singh, as honorable as you make her intention sound just now, the moment she stops acting transparently, it opens up questions towards the negative side. And I'm wondering if this recount is possible because of her and she's so honorable and she's acting in her own capacity to make sure fraud is exposed. Why did she do it behind everybody's backs? That's a simple question. Because an innocent person, a person with good intentions in their heart, has nothing to hide. 1 week after I'm being made aware of this, 1 week after you're being made aware that some of the commissioners don't know what's happening, there's no transparency. And where transparency isn't upfront, you need to question motives. And most of the times, it's not good motives. As for exposure of fraud, we want all the fraud to be exposed from either side, but with evidence. When you come forward and make an accusation, show what evidence you have. And so far, there is evidence against Mr. Mingo. We're waiting to see what other evidence may pop up from whichever party is accused of fraud. But if there's no evidence, I'm not going to stand up and accuse anybody of anything.
Derrick, before you ask your question, I want to ask, if you mind, ask you a question. We are all big people here. We are adults, and I'll be 60 this year. I have never seen any organization, any individual, any group, anything in this world, any political party who claimed numerous times that they have won an election, and yet their surrogates go on the radio and on TV and give all the reasons why the election was rigged, that the same election they claimed they won. Why is that so from the APNO AFC?
Well, there's nothing inconsistent in saying that you won an election which was rigged. There's nothing inconsistent about that. I mean, you could win a straight table tennis match, or you could win a rigged table tennis match. Same to the boxing match. You might set it out to rig it, but nonetheless, you emerge victorious.
Derrick,
Despite all of the jeopardies and obstacles put against you. So there's no inherent inconsistency in that position or two positions.
it makes no sense that anyone who wins something will now jeopardize their win by saying it was not a fair win. And I'm concerned that APNO AFC is doing that. They're creating a new paradigm shift. They're creating a new platform, a new frontier. They're creating something new. And I'm not supporting any side here. What I'm saying is that they couldn't count, as Sis rightly said. They couldn't read English because the Constitution, as I think, is clear, but they couldn't interpret that. They couldn't do a lot of these things. Now they're winning an election that they said, the president said they won, Mr. Harmer said they won, Mr. Jonas said they, not Jonas, Mr. Jones, Mr. Norton, everyone who comes on television, they said they won the election. Now they're saying that, hey, I won, but I didn't win cleanly. So if you didn't win cleanly, shouldn't you give it up?
No, they didn't say they didn't win cleanly. They said the election wasn't clean. And I believe there's evidence that is being unearthed to show that the election was indeed not clean. And that's an indictment on all of us.
Which was not clean.
Particularly those who took part in the fraud. But we have to find a way to ensure that fraud doesn't occupy such a major part of our elections. But Derrick, so when this is finished with, that's our next task. In addition to electoral reform, constitutional reform, we have to have electoral reform so that the votes of the people are counted properly and effectively. And of course, we have elections declared within a reasonable time that they're cast.
Okay. Sis, you want to comment there?
I really, really don't want to go here because Derrick used the word evidence. Again, evidence means you have something to substantiate these allegations. Then it becomes evidence-based. You just can't just jump up and say, oh, dead people voted. Okay, dead people voted. Where is your evidence that dead people voted? When you ask them, they disappear. And then they move to the next topic. Oh, the migrated voted. Then when you ask them for the evidence of that, oh, they jump to another thing. Oh, the disciplined services have been disenfranchised. When you expose them on that, expect tomorrow they will come with something else. The problem is they're clutching at straw because the arithmetic is clearly establishing that the SOPs generated by the 2,339 presiding officers are accurate. You know, I found the tally in Region 3. The PNC were jumping all over the place saying, oh, the PO, the RO was doing all kinds of craziness in Region 3. You know what we found? We found that the tally that the guy did is 99.998% accurate. It is so accurate, but, all these allegations. So, this is like a spoiled child, a brat as we call them. The PNC operates like a brat. Oh, they're spoiled and they want to be getting preferential treatment. Well, no way, Jose. In Guyana, everyone is entitled to the equal rights. And why did Mr. Mingo get into trouble? Everybody else has done what all the other 9 ROs. So, well, I can't talk for all 9, but the 7 ROs that have done their job, and we've done the complete recount on them, they've done their job. They and their POs have done their job. Why did Mr. Mingo get into trouble? Because he failed to follow the Representation of the People Act. And the Representation of the People Act basically says, when we do tabulation, we compare SOPs to SOPs. Simple as that. It's basic accounting, again, arithmetic. Right now, what we're doing in the tabulation room, we're comparing GCOM SORs, Statement of Recounts, to the political parties' SORs. That is all we're doing. And then we're tabulating it, and we're having a running tally, and the nation is seeing that running tally. So the question remains, and Derrick also said the vote of the people have to be counted properly. I am saying to you, and GCOM is saying to the world, so far in 7 of the 10 regions, the votes of the people as counted on the night of March 2nd was counted properly, because the variance from then to now is mainly single digits. There is nothing that is substantial. So the problem is, when the Region 4 is declared, then we will see what is Mingo's tally and what the SOR says. And then is when we will see who has done this nation a grave injustice.
I know time is running out. We're running out of time so quickly as the discussion is going so well. Before we wrap up, and Asha, I know you want to come in, but Derrick, just for your information as well, if you don't mind, APNU submitted 207 names of persons who they claim was outside of the country during election. Of those, 172 names came back that never arrived or left the country, or they never came in the country. And PP is also submitting a list of 200 people who is on the list who have never left Guyana. So the thing is, I believe that APNU is making a mess of themselves. And I said in a program yesterday that had APNU accepted the result of March the 2nd, it was give us opportunity to get back in power, hopefully in 2025, because I believe that there will be corruption in the PPP government. It might not be, but based on historical experience. And if Dr. Ali, who will be president, if this goes on as is, do not take action, a lot of people who vote for them in this election might not go to the polls, and APNU only have to get a couple percent more, and they could have won the election. But what they have done over the last 3 months, I think they have buried themselves. That the Guyanese people might not trust them anymore, knowing that you lose an election, you don't want to leave, and you're putting all these shenanigans around to say why you should not leave. But that's only a comment. Asha?
Yeah, I'm glad it's a comment and it's not a statement of fact, because one of the problems we have in society is that when we believe our facts, then we tend to act on them. But there are people who might look at things differently.
Okay. I know you'll be. Do you want to give some closing statement in addition to what you want to say?
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Go on, Asha, go on.
All right. So, as Asha Kissoon from the New Movement, I think we play a very important part in this process. Because when I hear about fraud, I laugh at it from both sides. Because over the past 50 plus years, we have seen it in one way or the other from the PPP and from the APNU AFC. Right, we're very outspoken about it. But what I can say is that as new parties, third force as we call ourselves, and our tripartite joiner, we speak out about anything that we see happening so far. We don't pick a side. And what I've observed is that there have been several attempts by the APNU to derail the recount process. There have been several things that they do, including the dossier, calling out people that were not in the country but voted, and evidence is popping up showing that the people are actually here and voting, saying that dead people voted, and people are coming out and speaking out and saying, listen, I'm alive, I'm here, and I voted. We've seen several attempts by them to derail the process, and we're very suspicious as to the fact that why do they not want Region 4 completed? Because every time it's coming closer towards completing the recount of Region 4, something is coming up. Is it to protect Mr. Mingo because they know he's going to be persecuted? I cannot figure out what the motive is, but it is something that we have observed.
Thank you, Asha. Sis, you want to give a closing statement? Your mute is on.
I actually am encouraged that we are bringing the curtains down on the counting, hopefully by Saturday, unless, as Asha highlighted there, one of the political forces make a play. I am saying that the young people committed to taking this to the and I want to take this opportunity to thank all of the young players from all of the political parties, including the APNU AFC, who have stepped forward and give their best to this nation by coming out over the last 26 plus days and helping to bring sanity to this country, because this country has become the laughing stock of the Caribbean. It has, because even up, I mean, I can't tell you some of the conversation, but we have become the laughing stock of the Caribbean. People are going to be writing books on our silliness and our stupidity, because people cannot understand how can a country take 100 days to quantify 454,000 valid votes. It is insanity. So I am looking forward to the end of this. And I am wishing whoever wins, win. But as we all know, the PVP as this moment tonight is 17,000+ ahead. And it's close to impossible for the APNU to surpass that number. They've never been ahead in all of the 26+ days. And it is not looking good for them. So they need to figure out an exit strategy where they can save what's left of their character and their reputation, because if they continue to do the nonsense they did over the last 100 days, they will go down in this world as a despotic organization, a dictatorial institution, and one that has no place in the Western Hemisphere. No place. And they should be banished from the Western Hemisphere if they fail to recognize the democratic actions that the young people of Guyana are taking today and every day over the last 26 years at the Arjune Convention. Thank you very much.
That's a nice statement, sis. And my only comment to that is that if people comes in this government, you will be an integral part of that, and you have to play your role to ensure what you're saying there, that Guyana rise to the occasion. Derrick, your closing comment, please.
Yeah, it's rather interesting, if not disturbing, to hear Sis talk about the PNC being PNC, APNUFC being a despotic and dictatorial entity, when indeed, as he's speaking in a place called Guyana, and he has no fear of repercussions. But not too long ago, his party was in power. And not only were Guyanese sometimes subjected to torture or unlawful police arrests, especially in certain places like Agricola and Buxton. Not only were Guyanese denied of local government elections, not only did a minister walk into a radio station and say this song shouldn't play, nor did someone punished because he showed a finger to a prime minister. Those things aren't happening under the present AP and UFC government. So when we speak of dictatorship and when we speak of denial of human rights, I hope that Mr. Sasenarine is fully aware that Guyana today is far more democratic than it was under the PPPC government. And indeed, its ranking as a democratic country has increased under the tenure of President David Granger. Finally, whoever wins, wins. And I would hope that we can all sit down and talk, or wherever we are, trash out a way forward for Guyana. I don't believe Guyana has become a laughing stock. I don't believe that those who are saying things on one side as opposed to on the other side are incredible. We're still Guyanese, we're still people. We hold different points of view at this important point in history. And what counts most is whether we love Guyana and we want to make sure that it succeeds as a nation. As I wish Mr. Sasenarine Singh and Asha Kissoon the best as they continue to work towards the betterment of Guyana.
Thank you, Derrick. I don't see if you want to jump in there.
No, I've shared my opinion, and I want to just tell Derrick, stay well, my friend. I hope all the people in New York City can be a better place because of this COVID. But you know what? I am saying to the history will be very harsh on anyone who disrespects this recount process. It will be very, very harsh on them. And the world, the internet, every country in the world literally has lined up against anti-democratic actions in Guyana. So I am encouraging whatever little is left, let them do the right thing. That's all I want to encourage.
Thank you. And I want to thank Sis and Dr. Kissoon for being our guest tonight. Of course, Derrick is always part of our program. In closing, I just want to, again, as I started at the beginning, I want to remind our young people in Guyana. I'm sure Asha and Sis, you mentioned all the young people who are at the center counting the ballots, recounting the ballots. We're reaching out to all the young people. Do not be misled by our political leaders who might lead you along the path of destruction. Destruction is not the answer. Whoever the commissioner of the GCOM chairman declares the winner of this election, let us accept that. And I agree that there are a lot of things need to change in Guyana. And I know that things will change, and we hope it change for the better. I said yesterday that we are blessed with so many resources. Guyana is blessed with tremendous resource. And we hope that the next government will be able to mobilize all our people, everyone, whether that person support them or not in this election, so we can make the pie bigger so everyone can share. Guyana deserves us better, and we can all share in that discovery. Next week, when we come back, by then, hopefully the count will be completed, the tabulation will be completed, so we will have a firm decision on who got what in the election, and hopefully within the week, the commission will declare the winner of 2020 election that will finally come to an end. So Asha, thank you so much for being part of the program tonight. Sis, thank you for being program, Derrick, and to all our viewers, to Noah Singh, thank you for this platform that you have made available to us, and to Devin for doing a great job as our technical specialist. To all our viewers out there, good night and stay safe.
Good night.
Good night.